Hello and welcome back to the final video of Mass Effect 2. Last time we finished buying everything, and this time there are only a few minor things that we can still do in the game, so I will go through that, and then give my final thoughts on the project. So, first of all, the things that we can still do. We need to resume, go to our captain's cabin, because we have fish that we need to feed. But also, there are a few last things that we need to do there. For one, we bought a few items. Let's just take a look at how they look like. So we have the death mask. That's how it looks on the model. Kind of silly, that's why I didn't want to use it. Then for the vest we have the shield harness. Actually it's the same as the regular N7 armor, except that it has this... what is effectively a shield belt from Unreal Tournament, let's be real. Wait, I think I prefer the Aegis vest. And then, did we have anything on the shoulders? Yeah, right, the asymmetric defense layer. So the shoulder pads that are not symmetrical. Interesting how that works. And we have the heavy damping gauntlets. Does this make John look a bit like one of those heavies from Unreal 2? Not bad, not bad. And specs, still nothing too interesting aside from the stimulator conduits. So there we go. And then, the other two last things that we need to do, and we can do in fact. This is useful. We can now at any time go to our console and in fact invite Miranda up. And sit on the couch. Also rest on the bed. Too bad that the textures for Miranda's white clothing are not yet ready, I believe. But hey, in the future we should have high-resolution Miranda textures as well. But that's nice nevertheless. And the very last thing is to view achievements, the Medal of Honor that we have on our desk. So, what achievements were there in this game, and what did we manage to achieve? So first of all, we have Missing in Action. Save your crew from an overwhelming attack. You might find that these names are slightly vague, but that's because by default Bioware tried to limit the amount of spoilers in the names and descriptions of the achievements. So this is for the Normandy attack by the Collectors. Very elusive. But that's the first achievement, so I'm not entirely certain about that actually. Maybe it's just for starting the game, which would make for a very poor achievement, but very elusive is Return to Active Duty, which is also for just starting the game. Next, the Convict. Successfully recruit the biotic convict, Jack. The Krogan. Successfully recruit the Krogan. Grunt. The Archangel. Successfully recruit Archangel. I still think Archangel is a better name than Garrus, but I digress. The Professor. Successfully recruit the Professor. Morden Solus. The Quarian. Successfully recruit the Quarian. Tally. The Justicar. Successfully recruit the Justicar. Samara. Yeah, for the first part you don't have a choice but to recruit Samara. The Assassin. Successfully recruit the Assassin. Thane. Next we have Colony Defense. Defend the human colony from attack. So that's the midpoint of the game. Or at least what was intended to be the midpoint, and we definitely didn't do that at the middle of the game. Next, the Prodigal. Gain loyalty of the Cerberus officer. Ghost of the Father. Gain the loyalty of the Cerberus operative. Catharsis. Gain the loyalty of the biotic convict. Battlemaster. Gain the loyalty of the Krogan. Also, yeah, you can see that it doesn't say the names as well, so you wouldn't know that Jack is in fact a woman. Fade Away. Gain the loyalty of Archangel. So once again here it says Archangel. The Cure. Gain the loyalty of the Professor. Treason. Gain the loyalty of the Quarian. Doppelganger. Help the Justicar resolve her mission. It doesn't say gain the loyalty. That's interesting. Cats in the Cradle. Gain the loyalty of the Assassin. Friend or Foe. Obtain Geth technology. That one is also an interesting way to say it. This is for recruiting Legion. A House Divided. Hack a Geth collective. This is actually for Legion's loyalty mission. And it's not hack per se, because you can destroy a Geth collective, which is in fact what we did. Ghost Ship. Complete the investigation of a derelict alien vessel. It doesn't say anything about the collectors, interestingly enough. Suicide Mission. Use the Omega-4 relay. Also no details here. Mission accomplished. Save humanity throughout the galaxy from certain annihilation. Once again, it doesn't say things, but you get this for just starting the suicide mission, and you do this for finishing the game. Against all odds, survive the suicide mission. So if Shepard dies, you only get this achievement and not this one. Otherwise, you get all three. Insanity. Complete the game on the Insanity difficulty level without changing the setting. I'm very glad that I managed to get this. Sure, it was using some mods, but I tried to keep the mods balanced. And I'm pretty sure that I could do it now on regular Insanity as well. I just wouldn't be enjoying it nearly as much as I did this time around. No one left behind. Keep your team alive throughout the suicide mission. That's what we did in the 100% run. But it's not really that difficult, actually. Although, the first time around, you definitely would make some mistakes in the quiz at the end, so you would not be able to get this achievement. Long Service Medal. Complete Mass Effect 2 twice, or complete it once with a character imported from Mass Effect 1. Should just be Mass Effect game. But okay. So this is also not very difficult to achieve, because normally you would do your run of the entire trilogy, so yeah, easy. Paramour. Successfully pursue a relationship with a teammate. Headhunter. Perform 30 headshot kills with any weapon on humanoid targets. So this one is pretty easy if you're playing with a sniper. You can see that I have one achievement left that I have not unlocked. Actually, I think two, yeah. One of them is Brawler. Shoot and kill 20 enemies while they're knocked back by a punch. So you need to punch and then shoot. If I punch, I usually continue punching, because you're in melee range anyway. And in general, the higher the difficulty, the less chance it is that the enemies are going to get knocked back by the punch. So this is not easy to gain, but it's easiest on the easiest difficulty. Big Game Hunter. Defeat the Thresher Maw. So, also an achievement. Interesting how it's in this area. Tactician. Hit 20 different targets with multiple biotic powers to combine the effects. I've seen some of that, but it's not very explicit when biotic combos happen. So when you have something like Singularity and then you do something inside its proximity, everything explodes. Master at Arms. Kill enemies with 5 different heavy weapons during the game. Very easy too. Merciless. Make 20 enemies scream as they fall or are set on fire. Well, we've heard several enemies scream, quite loudly, even while they weren't falling. I'm not sure if that counts, but I think it only counts if you use Incinerate? Is it? Or the fire-based ammos. Overload Specialist. Disrupt the shields of 25 enemies, so just use Overload a bunch. Warp Specialist. Warp the barriers of 25 enemies. Incineration Specialist. Incinerate the armor of 25 enemies. I was hoping I could achieve this, but apparently it doesn't work if you use your squad members to cast Incinerate. You have to do it yourself. So, since I did not have that power, I couldn't actually get this achievement. Quite unfortunate. But it doesn't matter much. Operative. Complete a mission discovered by scanning an unexplored world. Very easy. Agent. Complete 5 missions discovered by scanning unexplored worlds. Still easy. Prospector. Retrieve mineral resources by scanning and probing a planet in the galaxy map. It doesn't get much easier than that. Explorer. Visit 100% of the planets in an unexplored cluster. That's also easy. Power Gamer. Reach level 30 with 1 character. I'm not sure why it shows 0, but it is unlocked. And this is relatively easy as well. Especially with all of the DLC. We've been getting a lot of useless experience at the end. Scholar. Unlocked 15 new Mass Effect 2 Codex entries. That one is interesting. The game technically keeps track of which Codex entries are new in Mass Effect 2 and which ones are not. But it doesn't actually say that anywhere. Which I find a bit odd. Then Technician. Obtain 10 technology upgrades. So, things that you can research. Weapon Specialist. Fully upgrade a weapon. It says 7 out of 7. I think this goes up to 5, but then you can get everything up to level 7 as well if you get extra DLC. So it's interesting that the achievement also adjusts a bit. Scientist. Complete any research project in the Normandy's laboratory. Easy. Fashionista. Personalize your armor in your quarters on the Normandy. I think it also works on the Project Lazarus base, but I'm not entirely certain. In any case, this is super easy because all you need to do is press a button. Powerful. Evolve any power. Also very easy. Highly trained. View all advanced combat training videos at Shepard's private terminal. This one is surprisingly difficult because you have to actually go and look at the combat training videos that are not really interesting if you already know how to play the game from the first one. But hey. Revenge. Gain the loyalty of the mercenary. Zaid. So these ones are the DLC achievements. Broke, Blind, and Bedlam. Gain the loyalty of the thief, Kasumi. Data Hound. Collect 6 Cerberus data packets scattered across 8. Well, this one is from Overlord. Digital Exorcist. Successfully shut down the rogue VI in Project Overlord. Detail-oriented. Use all information terminals in the Shadow Broker's stronghold. Quite easy as well after you finish Lair of the Shadow Broker. Most dangerous game. Defeat the Shadow Broker's assassin. I think this means the Spectre? Taila Wazir? They just tried to keep it not obvious that you would have to fight her. Heart of Darkness. Confront the Shadow Broker. The hard way. Complete the Shadow Broker mission pack on Hardcore or Insanity. I think this one you get for defeating the Shadow Broker? Or just by fighting? I think by defeating. Catching up. Reminisce with Liara on the Normandy. And next we have Arrival, the Ultimate Sacrifice. Complete the Arrival DLC pack. It's surprisingly outside of the universe. I would say just stop Reaper invasion or something, but of course that's kind of difficult to put on achievements without spoiling things. Last Stand, survive all 5 waves in the battle for Object Row. I am very glad that I managed to get this. And lastly, Covert Action. Rescue Dr. Amanda Kenson without attracting hostile attention. Very interesting how that went. And I'm glad that I managed to get this achievement as well. I didn't realize that this was an achievement the first time around. But yeah, you can also see that for the achievements that are not unlocked, you can make out the general silhouette of things. So that's why I didn't want to show the achievements before the end of the game, so that you wouldn't get spoiled. Because even though the descriptions, Bioware tried to make it very non-spoilery, but still, if you can see what your squad members look like, already that's quite huge spoilers. So that's why I tried to avoid that. But yes, that is everything. And the last thing I want to do is tell my opinions about the project. Squeak? Okay. Apparently that's a reference to Baldur's Gate. But what I want to do is go to the main menu. And extras, here we can see the achievements as well. Let's go through the credits while I speak about my opinions about the rest of the things that I have not yet covered. So, those are the DLCs, Overlord and Arrival. Let me start with Overlord. And let me summarize it a bit. So, Gavin Archer forced David, his brother, into communicating with the Geth, which caused him to start hacking electronics around and fight against the whole Cerberus personnel in Project Overlord, trying to stop the experiment and free himself in a way. And Shepard put an end to that and managed to send David to the Alliance for rehabilitation, while also effectively destroying one of the 3 Cerberus cells in existence. That is, if you believe Edie, because she said that there were only 3 and the Lazarus cell is one of them. So you would think that there's only a single other Cerberus cell in existence that we don't know about. Which is an interesting point, and I think Bioware wasn't actually thinking about that. So it's a bit of a plot hole in a way. But it's not relevant yet. So, my opinions about Overlord. First of all, the graphics are really, really good. The satellite dish aesthetics were great. It's a very unique setting to fight on. The outdoor areas were really nice, they were non-linear, plenty of space to explore with the Hammerhead and so on. I'm quite glad that we managed to make use of the Hammerhead in a more efficient way than in Project Firewalker, or the Firewalker pack, I guess. And Space Cow's return, excellent. But I really was not a fan of the horror elements. Jump scares are just dumb, and I'm still unsure whether some of the horror elements were parodies or if Bioware is just bad at doing horror. Of course, the final scene was quite high on the horror part, and I'm also not a big fan on that. But yeah, overall, my opinion about the Overlord DLC is that it's a mixed bag. Thing is that the things that I disliked had more weight than the things that I liked in it. And it's kind of mediocre in a way in that sense. So yeah, that's my opinion about Overlord. Then about the Arrival DLC. Well, this is something that I wanted to go through in a bit more detail. So, to summarize Arrival, an Alliance team in a Batarian space discovers a Reaper plan to invade the galaxy right away. But during the discovery, they also get indoctrinated in the process. And Shepard intervened in order to carry out the project, despite having delays due to having to deal with an entire facility of indoctrinated people. The result was smashing an asteroid into a mass relay, and, well, flying through the mass relay right before that happens, which is implied that an entire Batarian star system has been destroyed in the process. Now that is a cool premise. In fact, when I finished the first game, I expected, well, before Mass Effect 2 was released also, this is exactly what I expected Mass Effect 2 to be about. This is a fantastic premise. Just think about it, if we do a few tweaks to this premise, we can have an entire game. So imagine that during the first half of the game, we would have it so that Shepard is sent to join the project by the Admiral, and during the first part of the game he attempts to locate and retrieve Object Rho. Now during the first part of the game we could also have some of this building of the team, and or fighting perhaps against another agent of the Reapers, because we know that they can exist, indoctrination is still a thing. So there might have been other agents of the Reapers. Or for that matter, the Collectors would fit pretty well as a minor element here. And then in the mid-game of Mass Effect 2, we could have had that Object Rho give Shepard visions about this planned Reaper invasion. And this would connect also very well with the visions from the first game. And in the second half of the game we would have this obstacle that Shepard would need to do a lot of this subtle political manipulation of different races in order to either persuade the Batarians to evacuate the star system, if you go the Paragon route, or to, say, build up a secret workforce while trying not to get detected by the Batarians within the Bahak system in a Renegade route. And in any case, the final task is still the same as in the Arrival DLC, to carry out the project after most of what would then be your team gets indoctrinated by Object Rho. In any case, the Batarians would not really be involved, because in the Paragon route they agree that this is something that they need to do and they have evacuated. In the Renegade route, they would not be aware that the project is ongoing, which is what the Arrival DLC was about. So that's what I expected Mass Effect 2 to be, and that would have been so much more relevant than what we had in the end. Because when you think about it, the Collectors are totally irrelevant in comparison. Because if you stop the Reapers, you save the galaxy. If you stop the Collectors, you only save humanity. And honestly, that's just doing Elusive Man's work for him. Humans really shouldn't be as big of a deal as they're made of in this game, because it's the galactic community that matters, all that the Citadel represents. Humans are not interesting per se, just alone. And the first game was really good at showing that, and I feel that the message in this game is kind of backwards in that sense. Also, while talking about this overarching plot, if you remember, there was this talk about dark energy that causes stars to explode, and there were hints about that being a big thing from different NPCs across the game. So still keep that point in mind. Thing is, we will not hear about this point ever again, but I will remind you of that point at the end of Mass Effect 3. So just keep that in mind. And I'll try to keep that in mind myself, but I think I will remember that. So back to Arrival. Another thing that I really liked is that in Arrival you actually do work with the Alliance. In kind of a non-official manner, but considering the whole setup that the game had beforehand, it makes sense. But if we would have Mass Effect 2 as I just described it, you would continue working for the Alliance. There would be no need for this really silly plot of having Shepard killed and then immediately revived. We would have no need to lose and regain all squad members. We would still have the Normandy SR-1, perhaps extended and upgraded a bit. And, well, we would have more fun fighting Cerberus instead of working with Cerberus against our wishes. So, yeah. While the rest of the game, as it is now, is completely relevant to the state of the galaxy, and, I mean, you could easily skip this game and just move on to Mass Effect 3 without feeling like you missed anything, Arrival really does have a large impact on the story, and if we expanded that to an entire game, Mass Effect 2 would have been fantastic. Much better than it is right now. So, to summarize about Arrival, the premise of Arrival is amazing. But what about other factors? Well, there were some things that I also discussed a bit before, like the concept of breaking a mass relay kind of stretches what we know about the technology in Mass Effect a bit, but it's true that nobody would have hurled asteroids at the mass relays, and we do know that the mass relay material is in fact vulnerable to weapons fire, even if it is really resistant, because Sovereign was destroyed. The bigger problem fighting Sovereign was the shields, but with combined fire, the same material that was used in mass relays was destroyed. Also, let me refresh the credits again. So, yeah, that is a bit of a stretch, but it's not too big of a stretch. Then the game implied that the Reapers could still reach the Bahak star system, just that they would have to travel by FTL until the next relay in order to get anywhere. That kind of implies that there's a second conduit type of relay that links to a mass relay in dark space, also within that system. And while that's reasonable, since the Reapers are actually the ones that built the whole relay network to begin with, and we do know about their methods of how to invade the galaxy from the first game. So I really like that connection as well in Arrival. But it does kind of mean that the Alpha Relay isn't actually the main relay of the Bahak system, rather a relay that we have not yet seen. So it's a small plot hole in that sense. Unless the devs actually meant that the Reapers would have to travel from dark space to the closest relay, which kind of doesn't really work considering what happens in Mass Effect 3, so I have my doubts about that. So it's not kind of the impression that I got. And also I think it was mentioned about traveling at FTL speeds until the next relay, specifying that it is the next relay rather than the first relay. So I think that we are supposed to be envisioning that the Reapers at this moment in time are actually inside our galaxy, where the former Bahak system was, just that it will take a while for the Reapers to get to the closest mass relay, say perhaps a few years. Next, what I was missing a bit in the DLC is in fact husks, because the project is indoctrinated. Now, it's true that the project is newly indoctrinated, but, I mean, even so, we've seen plenty of places but have been introduced not that long ago with husks involved in it. And we also know that the speed of turning into a husk, for one, varies per person, but it also varies by the intensity of interaction with Reaper objects, and also whether the indoctrination, well, rather whether the indoctrinee should keep their sanity in order to fulfill Reaper purposes. We've seen a lot of that in the first game, in Vermeer. So it would be very likely that the project would have a bit of a mix of husks and just regular people that are against you. So that was a missed opportunity, I feel. The stealth segment was really interesting, especially considering the mechanics of the game. They had pretty limited amount of things that they could implement in this case, because they couldn't change the engine itself. Though I do feel that the setups should have been a bit more elaborate, because they really didn't do all that much with the stealth. You could go around pretty much every obstacle without any issues. It also resulted in you being the only person throughout the entire DLC and without the team members. And especially for Sentinels, that's really annoying, because Sentinels are supposed to be support characters for your team members. So it doesn't really work all that well, because if you choose a soldier class, that becomes so much easier. Then the survival round was really something else. Again, I really wish that we had the whole team there, because that would have allowed for much better tactics, and as it is, it was really too much. And then, at the end, the talk with Harbinger was quite enjoyable, even if it's not nearly as cool as the talk with Sovereign. But still, it's a really nice nod to the first game as well. And as I mentioned, I'm quite disappointed that we get to see Admiral Stephen Hackett directly. I wish that he stayed as a cool voice, but I digress. So all in all, Arrival DLC, amazing potential, amazing, but unfortunately it is mostly unrealized. And yeah, like I said, unfortunately that's true for the entire game of Mass Effect 2. Nevertheless, I am overall really happy with this project. Especially with mods, the game is so much more enjoyable. Now, mods cannot fix storyline, relevance issues that I just mentioned, nor can they fix the linear nature of most missions, with the issue of going from point A to point B, then fighting a boss. But still, overall, this is Mass Effect. And while it's flawed, it was still enjoyable, especially with all the character interactions that we had throughout the game. And from my side, I also especially liked planning the whole run, both to combine the 0% run, and then recruiting Legion as soon as possible, and then doing the 100% run, followed by these two remaining DLCs. Now, the project itself actually took a bit longer than I expected. It is a bit over 140 videos, I believe 142. And I expected it to be closer to Mass Effect 1 at 120 videos, but still it's not that far away, I suppose. Alright, so that is about everything. Now we're done with the game, right? So what is coming up next? In this time slot, that I call Slot B, we are going to move on to another RPG, one that in fact a lot of my viewers have been waiting for. That is Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. Now, for those of you who are watching for Mass Effect, or for Unreal, which I consider to be sort of the same series, well, I will be playing Mass Effect 3 after I'm done with Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. That will take a while, though, because that is a pretty large RPG. But actually, we are not yet done with Mass Effect 2. In fact, I am going to open a C slot just for this. From here on, every Sunday, I will have one bonus video of Mass Effect 2 in a new series that I call Cerberus Daily News. In Cerberus Daily News, I will cover official Bioware provided news stories from all across the galaxy in a format that you are already familiar with from the first game. I will explain more about that on the first video of Cerberus Daily News that I will put up next week. I expect this content to span the entire time up to the start of my Mass Effect 3 playthrough. In fact, it might go on for so long that I will need to schedule more than one slot per week for that, but we'll see. And actually, for this project, for making new stories, I would really appreciate some help from you, the viewers, in order to do some voice acting for the cases where there will be new stories with guest speakers, like interviews and so on. So if you're interested, please write in the comments or otherwise contact me, and I will be very glad to include your voice into the Cerberus Daily News series. So, that was all that I wanted to say here. And, well, as I mentioned, Mass Effect 2 never really ends, does it? It just keeps going and going and going, even though you might have expected it to finish already. And so, in that case, I will see you all next time in Cerberus Daily News. Later.